A movie premise doesn't get much simpler than Free Fire. There's about 13 criminals of various stripes meeting in an abandoned warehouse to make a gun deal. Things go south, everyone winds up shooting at everyone else and trying to make their individual escapes, and we, the audience, get to watch all 75 to 80 minutes of it. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the movie. Now, we've seen these kind of single location shootout action films before, and usually they exist for one of two reasons. Either because the filmmakers want a plot-free excuse to show off how many elaborately choreographed John Woo gun battles they can invent, or to show off a similarly elaborate mastery of spatial geography, i.e. look how masterfully I can keep track of where everyone is in real time. And those are both perfectly valid reasons to do a movie like this, but Ben Wheatley is a decidedly unusual filmmaker, and he's doing something a little bit different with the material. Instead of concentrating on a technical show-offery of that sort outside of, competently directing the movie and executing a mostly faithful recreation of a 1970s Boston milieu, Free Fire is all about dwelling on the messy details of how, messy an actual gunfight is. None of these people, who for the record are a couple of IRA thugs doing the buying, some assorted American gun traffickers doing the selling, and a handful of Bostonian lowlifes moving things around on both sides, are soldiers or any kind of trained killers. Everyone is off guard because the inciting incident is just two guys had beef and weren't expecting to see each other there, and when a bullet isn't a kill shot, which is most of the time, it mainly leaves you injured and stumbling, which means this all turns very quickly into a bunch of not terribly bright assholes who are all injured in one way or another, stumbling around in the chaos trying to make their way to the exits, shouting at each other to try to keep some semblance of who's on whose side, and occasionally being imperiled much more by the filthy conditions of the fucking factory than by any of the guns going off. They're all also pretty much different varieties of dumb assholes, save for the one woman on the scene who is of course immediately sick of everyone's bullshit right from the start, so that adds complications of its own. To be honest, this would all probably be more than a little insufferable if it didn't have a fun cast, and also if it were even a hair longer than it is at 90 minutes. But fortunately, they've thought to populate the roster with a mix of reliable character performers and some more recognizable stars clearly relishing the opportunity to play against type and mess with their bigger screen images. Most prominently, Brie Larson getting in at least one more gritty indie movie before she begins her stint as Captain Marvel. Perhaps expectedly, Sharlto Copley is also on hand, giving, the Sharlto Copley performance. There's really no other way to describe what that guy does whenever he's allowed to let loose in a movie, which he certainly is here. But the fun surprise turns out to be Armie Hammer. I'm getting the sense that he's another one of those actors who's naturally best suited to comedy and has been all along, but got trapped in leading man roles because that's what he looks like, which is kind of a bummer because he's much better in stuff like this than the Lone Ranger. And despite the rumors, I really hope they don't make him play the Green Lantern, because that whole thing is just a lost fucking cause at this point. Now, I'm not going to try to tell you that Free Fire is some kind of great film. It's a minor piece, mostly enjoyable distraction that perhaps intentionally lacks the thematic heft and nastier impulses that Wheatley and wife partner Amy Jump brought to earlier material like Kill List and High Rise. But it's a quick, fun, decent time at the movies, and very good at being exactly what it sets out to be. 3 stars, worth a look.